said at the very end about putting it all into one consolidated, you said that everyone would have to take a hit. Do you know proportionally how much that might be, say for the big financiers and also for the small homeowner? Like what the proportion?
Like I said, this would be a national debate. We're creating legislation that changes the nature of the real estate mortgage investment conduit to say that I, the conduit, can change the terms, and you, the investor, are going to have to go along with it.
So when there's a foreclosure, everybody loses in that one, do they not? Including the investor.
Right.
So I mean, this business of not being allowed to change it ultimately screws the investor, does it not?
Well,
I mean,
they try, of course, to push it back down through the system and make the lender of record to be the one that has to buy the loan back. But you can look at obviously, there's where we get into the leverage situation. Countrywide funding, one of the worst, abusers of this entire system, second only to Wells Fargo. When they were bought by Bank of America, had about $85 billion in assets. Well, Bank of America had $4 trillion. That's why the feds allowed the whole thing to go through to subsume Countrywide inside B of A, so there was a chance as the toxicity of the mortgages started to flow back down and no payments being made, that B of A could contain it. And they have. They've lost a ton of money and they're still in business where Countrywide and poor Angelo Mazzillo, the Italian stallion, has had to be content with $400 million that they let him keep.
Poor baby.
Yeah.
Robert, do the banks make money off of foreclosures? Or why are they so interested in foreclosing? It seems like they would do anything to keep people in their houses and some money coming into
Yeah,
them.
unless the prices go back up, they're not going to win. They're going to lose. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think they're interested in it. They're caught. They have to foreclose because the investor who holds the interest, and this is true even if it's a vertical integration like Citicorp. They occupy all, once Glass-Steagall went out of the way, these big lenders could start occupying all the rungs on the ladder. But it doesn't change the legal relationship between the bank who holds the servicing rights to the loan and originated the mortgage, still can't respond. There's no way for them to undo it because the law says, hey, you sign notes and deeds and mortgage-backed securities under which those notes and deeds are pledged, you have to foreclose. And no, it's a lose-lose for everybody. That's why in the last General Assembly that I attended, I was bringing up the idea of debt forgiveness. And if we don't approach the entire financial calamity,
But we have to change the law in order to...
Well, to do that, yes. Yeah, you're right.
And what assembly were you referring to?
Oh, I was here. No, General Assembly meeting, that's what we do here. Yeah, no, I just brought it up.
Yeah, the question of reusing the properties for homeless people or for people to be able to move in and begin to rent them, and that's still not working. I know there's a movement toward it, but how do you see that working within the system you're talking about?
Well, the lender has to be the cooperative party because he's going to end up with the thing. He has to pay the investor off. $200,000 mortgage goes south, I owe him $200,000. I end up with a property that's now worth $100,000. And what do? Do I get into some kind of program there where maybe my losses would be less if I rented it out? I don't know. They're thoroughly trapped, but
But they're not trapped. They're just choosing to be trapped.
No, how are they not trapped?
Because if you can convert a payment on a house that someone's willing to do and have a place to live,
Yeah.
and then keep the values of other homes in the neighborhood higher, then everybody is winning with that.
Yeah.
That's not a trap. That's just
Yeah.
intentional.
I'm afraid I don't agree with the numbers. I'm getting this $200,000 house back. You're not going to make a payment that's anywhere near to amortizing.
You ask people who've been foreclosed on what they would choose.
Oh, I know they would choose it, but I don't think they're going to get offered it because the bank, looking at their books, it's not going to work.
No.
Plus, they do have a vested interest in keeping the system going the way it was before. I agree with that with you.
I think so.
Yes.
Where does the credit default swap fit into the picture that you're describing?
Well, credit default swaps, I'm not an expert in that. That was another very new thing off the books. It's a private insurance policy that I trade with you. You cover me if I lose, I'll cover you if you lose. Nobody knows how many. They're totally unregulated. And there are moves now to get a regulatory body on top of that. But it's the giant rat out there in the swamp that no matter what we do may swallow us all. You know, and we're going to have, and what we have to do as a society, we have to decide about housing. Is this old model of everybody own a house the one that we want to continue with, or do we need to go? We need to look at more cooperative ways to approach housing. But it's a total thing. It's not just. It's not scapegoating the banks. That's not going to work because everybody participated. When I mean, 70% of all the loans done in the last 10 years were not purchases; they're refunds. Now, people did it to keep up with stagnating wages, loss of income, kids' tuition going up. They weren't frivolous about it. I'm not. There were a few, but they weren't. Debt consolidation, all of those things just to keep up with it. But the point was that they were in this housing bubble and they just kept taking the money out, refinancing every 18 months. And the lenders kept just making the loans. Yes?
Yeah. In things that I've read, I understand, you know, that the banksters leveraged out like 30 to 1. You were saying Fannie Mae was 69 or?
No, Freddie Mac was 67, Fannie Mae was 21,
okay.
and most commercial banks were 10 to 1. Now, you know, obviously that's a generalization. It could be all over the place.
Now, my question is then, I mean, there had to be some regulation because, you know, like a bank that we would go to, you know, put our funds in that is not an investment bank, you know, they, like, you were just saying that they were like 10 to 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And investment banks, I suppose I'm not sure where all they could go, Goldman Sachs and et cetera. But how could the other go to 67?
Good question. They were, even though they're a government-sponsored entity, they are a private company. Now, in Fannie Mae's case, when they were privatized in 1969, there was a built-in contradiction that would sink them sooner or later. And that is, they have a federal charter which says they still have to promote home ownership through the use of loan terms which are outside the realm of what makes sense. And so they kept doing that. But on the other hand, they're a private corporation, a stock company. And that means that they have the other legal obligation to max shareholder value. Well, you're not going to be able to do both. It's a disaster. And Freddie Mac was never sound from the day it was opened in 1970. It should never been opened, and it should be closed.
Just two more questions, and then we got to move on.
You were first. He was first. He was first.
I just wanted to, you were basically on the side of how to fix this. You said it would take federal regulation only. This cannot be done on a state level, and just maybe, I know it's probably not your area of expertise, like law, but
Yeah,
would this be in like something that has to start in the House of Representatives or in the Senate?
Yeah. Yeah.
Either or,
We've got to find somebody that'll start putting in legislation to remodel the REMIC, and then we have to get the loans inside of the REMIC, and then and face down the investors that they take a haircut, the bank takes a haircut, the homeowners are pretty much already taking a haircut, and everybody's going to have to suffer through this thing, and it'll take 10, 15, 20 years to wash through it. But that's the only way that I can see legally that we're going to change this. Otherwise, it's just a standoff.
Yeah, I hope I'm getting this right. The lady up front, she was saying about, well, you know, you got to work with people to give them an ability to pay and stuff. We moved down here a year ago. We had a friend that was helping to paint our house, and he had a home here in Medford, and he paid. I don't know the whole story behind it, but the banks told him that he could. They worked with him for 4 or 5 months, and they took his payments, and they told him, oh, you want to say it better?
Yeah, I'll say it.
Yeah,
they said he was the perfect candidate for, you know,
The modification.
Modification
it's
of
a
his
scam.
loan.
no kidding.
You know, he just run into some little hard time, you know, in 2011, for Jen, and so he got a little bit behind and wanted to go, you know, but he was getting back to work and stuff like that and wanted to go ahead and modify his loans. And, like I said, they said he was the perfect candidate, but they kept asking for more and more paper, more and more paper, more and more paper. And then after 4 months, when I guess it was supposed to close, they just said, no, we don't want to do it.
The lender to whom you make your payments more than likely is not the holder of the beneficial interest in the mortgage. That's the problem. You're just talking to a loan servicer who makes his money off of 1/4 or 1% for a fee, and he doesn't have any legal ability to change the facts of the original transaction. And the foreclosure people are going to get into this in a much better way than I am. But it's a terrible situation that we've gotten ourselves into. I want to back up on this. It wasn't just the banks. Everybody participated in the greed of the housing bubble. And most people who I didn't know well.
On that note, I'd like to say thank you, Robert.